Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of The Facts Are Racist. In this series of videos, my goal is to provide a fact-based commentary on the ever-evolving state of nonsense created by the regressive left. And what better way to start than by dissecting a video intended to convince African American people to support and practice Sharia law.
Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar!
Oops, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning.
Despite the widespread myth of the United States being the land of freedom, liberty, and lasting hope, it's in fact a land of injustice, intolerance, and institutionalized racism.
Already off to great start. I challenge anyone who believes this rhetoric to give me one example of a country with as much diversity as the US, who's more tolerant. Maybe Canada.
For the African American community in particular, the United States has always been a land of historical injustices and a society founded upon racial bigotry.
I can't help but notice that every police officer in this video is white. Seems there's some editing bias going on here. I don't really have the time to give a complete history lesson for idiots, but I can quote the Constitution. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Can someone please point to the area here that refers to hating people who aren't white? It may be possible that this particular individual could be referring to obvious injustices like slavery, gender inequality, or segregation, to which the US has a very sordid past. But the American society itself was not founded on these injustices, and have since been abolished. However, injustice, intolerance, and institutionalized racism are an ongoing practice of Sharia law to this day.
Black people are often disproportionately targeted by law enforcement agencies and are subject to racial profiling and police brutality.
I assume he's referring to the fact that our police force is killing innocent black people disproportionately to white people, which is false. I recommend this video by independent man on this exact topic, as he explains it far better than I ever could.
The consequences of which have had a devastating impact on the African American community and hindered their progress.
Okay, look. I have this debate very frequently, and I can't stress enough. This is not a racial issue, but in fact a community issue. It's not a secret that there are many communities that are suffering from fatherless homes, which statistically speaking, is one of the top reasons why teens enter into gangs. And it is unfortunate that black families make up a large majority of these communities. But that doesn't make the cops racist. The police force exists to maintain peace and safety, but they are people just like you and me. When a man or woman, no matter what race, is pointing a gun at a police officer, the officer has to make a very difficult choice whether to fire first and save himself or wait to be fired upon.
I don't want any trouble.
You stay out of my way and there won't be none. Drop it, Sonny. You'll ride out of here for a few hours and leave me be.
Let's go, boy.
Which would you choose? Personally, I'd rather have a police officer who's helping the community than a lost thug whose only purpose appears to be anarchy.
Police brutality is an institutionalized event that's going around the country. It's like McDonald's in every corner. They're killing kids left and right.
Every time I hear the phrase institutionalized racism, a little piece of me dies. It's the same nonsense argument that feminists use so they don't have to exercise.
You could start a grueling workout routine and manipulate your natural shape and skin tone to reach for an unattainable and oppressive idea of perfection.
It's not unobtainable or oppressive. Sorry, getting off topic.
Who's going to judge them when they kill somebody? Can we get justice?
The public does nothing but judge them. If he's black, it's automatically a hate crime. If it's an unjustified shooting, then call internal affairs. Just saying.
Such institutionalized racism manifests itself in the form of mass incarceration of young black men and the racial disparities in wealth and living conditions across the United States.
Again, this is covered in independent man's video.
When you look at American society and you see that African Americans are 12% of the population, but almost 50% of the national prison population, there's something wrong.
I agree.
That's an injustice.
Oh, that's... come on.
It's such forms of racial inequality that force black people to live in some of the most deprived neighborhoods, where young black men are often trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty and crime.
No one is forcing them to live there. Freedom means you can choose your own path. The real issue here, again, is the community is broken. The only way to improve this is better education and responsible parenting. And it's my belief that the former heavily influences the latter. A good example of this is a study by the New York Times titled, "Urban Charter Schools Often Succeed. Suburban Ones Often Don't." The study shows that charter schools in Boston produced huge gains in test scores. A majority of students at Boston's charters are African American and poor. Their score gains are large enough to reduce the black-white score gap in Boston's middle schools by 2/3.
When you live in a poor neighborhood, you're living in an area where you have to have poor schools. When you have poor schools, you have poor teachers. When you have poor teachers, you get a poor education. Poor education, you can only work on a poor-paying job. And that poor-paying job enables you to live again in a poor neighborhood. So it's a very vicious cycle.
This is not an issue exclusive to race, and you may have noticed that the first example in the quote was poor schools. So following that logic, by fixing the education by way of charter schools, which have been proven to work in predominantly black urban areas, the domino effect works in a positive way.
Entire generations of young black men will inevitably end up in prison to increase the world's largest prison population and live with the stigma of being labeled criminals for the rest of their lives.
And your solution is?
The Ku Klux Klan is alive and well in America today.
With racism deeply entrenched in every part of the society.
See what he did there? He's pushing a subtext of conspiracy that the KKK are the police and every other white man who works for the government.
For as long as you're black, you will always be considered subhuman.
معنى ذلك أن المرأة عليها أن تلبي رغبة زوجها. المرأة في الغرب ليست مجبرة على ذلك، بل عندهم قضية اغتصاب الزوج لزوجته. أنه إذا أتاها رغما عنها هذا اغتصاب، يعدونه اغتصابا. لا بد أن تكون متهيئة، لا بد أن تكون راضية هي بزعمهم.
أن أصناف ثلاثة من النساء لا يمكن أن يعيش معها رجل إلا والعصا على عاتقه. المرأة الأولى فتاة ربيت عليها، يطلب منها أن تذهب للمدرسة فتمتنع يضربوها. كلي لا أريد اضربوها. هكذا اعتادت على الضرب. والمرأة الثانية امرأة متعالية مترفعة على زوجها لا تحسب له حساب، هذه أيضا لا تستقيم إلا بالعصر. والمرأة الثالثة امرأة فيها انحراف لا تقتنع بقوة رجلها إلا إذا قهرها وإلا إذا ضربه وإلا إذا انتصر عليها عضليا وهزمها بصوته.
Not only is that statement completely false, but it's being said by a man who currently believes that women are subhuman. Double standard much?
To the millions of oppressed black people living in the United States, however, there is an alternative. That alternative is Islam.
Oh boy.
وأقولها ملء الفؤاد وفي حنايا الأضلع أنا مسلم.
We invite you to a religion that guarantees you your rights.
If you're a man.
And where neither the white has precedence over the black, nor the black over the white, except by virtue of faith.
This is the most important part here. This is the biggest problem with Islamic thought. He's making the argument that all whites and blacks can live in harmony, but only if they are men and follow Islam. So if you're Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, or worst of all female, then you're not allowed to enjoy this peaceful alternative to Western civilization.
For Islamic Sharia is not based upon a racist ideology, nor does it endorse a social hierarchy based upon biological differences.
Well, I think we know better at this point.